Yeah, so the creation of purchase orders is done within obviously the orders module here, and it's the second one down, purchase orders. So you have the ability to click into existing POs here, and you can search by an existing PO. But for this purpose, let's create a brand new one. I'm going to click the plus button, and brings us into the purchase order management screen. So, by the way, one thing I like to do, especially when I'm doing something big like a purchase order or a sales order, is I'll just hide this menu. So it gives me kind of the full screen to work with here. Let's pick a vendor first. Let's say I choose this company, Ban Rice. So once the vendor is created, it displays all the information that's known about that vendor, address information, the default buying rep. It's pre-filling with, this is my user ID. So pre-fills with the user who's actually doing the data creation, and that person could be different than the person who's, say, responsible for the PO. Defaults to today's date, but you could modify that if you want to. The PO numbers themselves could be system generated. That's how we normally set it up, but you have the ability to enter them manually if you choose to. Other components here. Yeah, the other thing is like you can copy from, if this is like similar to a purchase order that you did in the past, you can copy from a previous purchase order. You could copy from a sales order. So you might want to do that in the case of, say, a direct shipment, or you sold something that you want to go buy it. You could copy from a sales order, or you could copy from a sourcing offer, or this is like vendor quotes. You can copy from a vendor quote. The documents here, we'll look at that in a moment. As far as the shipping dates, in terms of the entry, the ETD and ETA entry in this screen, you're only going to do this if there's going to be a single shipment. So if there's one shipment, you can enter the shipping dates that apply. So let's say it's going to ship out next month, and we actually expect to receive it in July, right? Whoops. One other thing I'll mention about this, you don't have to enter an exact date like I'm doing now. If instead of that, you wanted to enter like, it'll be here at some point in July, just entering a month, you could do that. Or, it'll be here at some point at the end of July. Instead of entering exact date, you can sort of do these more generic dates, and that's how it shows up on the purchase order document too. This would be the terms, the Incoterms. Let's say we're buying FOB. Now you have the option to say, okay, this Bangladesh rice company is our vendor, but they're not actually the producer of the products themselves. They're a trading company or something. You can link the actual manufacturer or producer here, and that information trickles all the way through the supply chain. So you have really both parties stored with that inventory. If we have set up a default ship from location at the vendor level, then this will pre-fill. And let's say it's shipping from China, and it's going to take 30 days, and we're going to be shipping to Houston. If the vendor gives us a confirmation number, we can make reference to that here too. And then we can indicate where it's actually shipping to, an exact address if we choose to. In the price and remarks area, we entered the Incoterms, but there's also the payment terms. Any additional charges or discounts would be entered here too. If you're buying on letter of credit, that's where you put your LC number. And then the order remarks, this is going to show up on the purchase order document. So any comments that you actually want to communicate to the vendor, you can put here, and that will show up on the document. We'll choose which lines we want to buy, which actual products we want to buy. And let's say we choose this product. By the way, when we select the product itself, this icon appears here, and this just kind of gives us information to say, well, we currently have inventory in 3 different warehouses here. That 2WHSE, Allied, and Brook, and how much is in each warehouse. And we also have a container on the water for another 1,800. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what you already have in stock as you're buying more. Let's say, okay, we're going to buy 500, and it's bringing in my default. So it brings in the default unit of measure, a default purchase unit of measure for this product. And it also brings in price based on either default purchase price, or we can have vendor specific purchase pricing, and it'll bring that in. But let's say in this case, we were able to negotiate slightly better deal. It's going to be $29 a case instead. Couple other things going on here. You can create a pre-allocation. The pre-allocation itself needs to be done from the sales order side, but you can sort of link this purchase order with a sales order. So you're pre-selling against this PO if you want to. And if you choose to do that, you can check this box which says auto sync pre-allocation, meaning any changes I make to the purchase order would also get reflected in the sales order side if that box is checked. So that's really useful in the case of drop shipments in particular, where whatever the vendor ships you, that's exactly what the customer is going to get, and they're okay with that. That's the time in which you would use that checkbox. Now it is going to calculate my total weight and total CVM and total number of pallets as I'm building the PO. You do have to click off the tab and come back in for those calculations to come in, but it's doing the math from the carton information that we've supplied at the product level to figure out what the total CVM is, total weight, and total number of pallets. And as I'm adding lines, it's going to bring the totals down at the bottom. We can upload and attach documentation here if we want to. So like the vendor sends us a order confirmation or something, we can attach that so we have a record of it. You can set reminders for yourselves, and this area is customizable, but like if you're going to have quality checks done overseas, whether it's you have your own folks overseas, you hire a third party to do sort of a quality analysis or inspections, you can say whether or not those things are required. You need samples sent to you before you want the vendor to ship. You want to do an analysis on the samples or something, or there's third parties doing an analysis on the samples. You can just set, okay, in this case, the PO requires samples, and then we can set a required date in which the samples need to be sent. And you can kind of set what these different production schedule things are. And these can also trigger reminders. So for example, if the samples have not been sent and you set the sample date of next week and the samples had not been sent, that can trigger an email as a reminder, either to someone internally or directly to the factory to say, hey, you didn't send the samples. We needed them by 5/26. That's the idea. And if they promise a date, I can use this in a couple different ways. One would be if the factory themselves promise that it's going to ship by a certain date, you can indicate that. But also, again, in the case of a direct shipment, if you promise the customer that the goods are going to ship by a particular date, you can enter that there too. In terms of generation of the document itself, that's going to be from this link here, PO document link. When I create that, it loads our purchase order document. And I've mentioned this in other videos too, but I'll mention it here, is in terms of the formatting of the document. This can go directly to PDF if you choose, or you can have it go to Excel first, in which you can add additional remarks or make whatever changes you want to make in Excel, and then email it, and that converts it to a PDF and sends it in an email. Once the vendor confirms the order, you're going to make a change on this status. So initially, it has this status, what we call not yet issued. So essentially what that means is purchase order has been created. We may have sent it out, but the vendor has not come back and confirmed the order yet. So if you want to keep a record of the fact that they did confirm it, when they do, you just change the status to PO issued there. Oh, a couple other things actually I should mention here. So in the line detail, you have the ability to drill down into lines themselves. So in this case, we said it's ordering 50 cases. I'm just going to bump that up a little bit. Let's say it's going to be 500 cases. So if I can drill down into the actual line itself and break that out so it's shipping over a period of time. So initially, this first shipment is going to be, say, 250, and that's going to ship in those dates that we already indicated. But then we're going to add a second shipment for another 250 that's going to be shipping later on, right? So I'll say it's going to ship in June. No, we said, yeah, so this one's going to be shipping in June, and we're actually going to be receiving it later on. July, remember. So that's kind of the breaking out of the shipments themselves. And then if you wanted to enter other details that are specific to this line, so maybe you can say there's additional charges that apply just to this line. because now you can see from this, I'm actually in the line detail itself. So you can enter, details that are specific to this particular line item. Or if we want to, we can drill down into individual shipments. So let's say we drill down into this one. And now I'm editing details that are specific to this shipment. So say that, there's different terms or different pricing on this particular shipment. You can adjust that here, like in this case, the last shipment, maybe the raw material price went up. So for this shipment, they're charging us a little bit extra, that kind of thing. So that's drilling down into the individual shipments. And then there are these breadcrumbs, we call them, up top. So you can, if you want to get back to the order header, that brings you back up to the order header. You can do other things with it there.